Okay, good afternoon everyone. Hope you are all well. I'm hoping that this is all working okay, but if you could just type in the Q&A box, if you could just give me a yes or a no or a hello, just anybody just to let me know that everything is working, that you can see and hear me okay, that you can see the slides on your screen. If anybody could just type a little message into the Q&A box, that would be super helpful. Thank you. Brilliant, thank you very much for that. That's fantastic. I'm glad it's all working okay. Excellent. Well, I make it 1 o'clock, so hopefully sort of other people will join, but we'll make a start now, and anything that anybody's missed, they can also catch up on the recording. So welcome to this webinar, which is Finding Balance, the Key to Rebooting Your ACCA Studies. I'm going to be your main presenter for today. My name's Hannah. I work at FI and have been here for the past 3 years, and I am the head of online and Midlands programmes. And we're also joined today as well by Rosie, who I'll introduce a little bit later. Rosie is ACCA qualified, and she's also a tutor at First Intuition, and she's going to be sharing some of her real life experiences with studying ACCA as well with you, which is fantastic. So first of all then, an agenda for the session. This is what we're going to be going through over the next hour. So first of all, we're going to talk about some of the challenges that we face sort of when studying a qualification, usually whilst having a job, children, life, all those kind of things. We're going to talk about those challenges and how to overcome them, and that's when Rosie's going to step in. She's going to share her journey through her ACCA qualification and some of the challenges that she faced and how she overcome them as well. We're then going to talk about sort of the different study modes, because I think that's quite important to get that part right, to help with some of those challenges. So we're going to talk about the 3 main sort of routes to study or study modes at First Intuition or any other sort of learning provider as well, so that you can make an informed choice about which study mode is the correct one for you and that's going to suit your lifestyle and also the sort of the way that you learn best. We're then going to talk about study plans, because again this all links back to those challenges that we face and how we overcome them. So we're going to talk you through sort of what are some of the problems with a study plan, sort of how they can go a little bit wrong, and then sort of talk you through some examples of what makes a good plan, and also share with you sort of how to perhaps build that study plan to help you sort of find that work-life balance. I'm then going to give you a little bit of a recap on the ACCA qualification. I'm going to talk about sort of where to start with it, sort of which papers you might want to do, sort of how you could do the exams, how many papers to do, and your journey through the qualification, and also sort of the types of courses that we offer here at First Intuition for ACCA as well. And again, Rosie is going to step in there and again share her journey through the qualification and talk about exam pressure and how she dealt with exam pressure and sort of also what the examiners are looking for. And then I'll share with you some next steps at the end. Hopefully we'll have a bit of time for Q&A as well, but I'll share with you some useful links and websites as well, and sort of talk to you about any upcoming courses at First Intuition, so that when you are ready to get going with your qualification, you sort of know where to go. So first of all then, I'll just sort of briefly run through what we commonly see with students as their biggest challenge. The main one being work-life balance. As I've said, I'm sure most of you have got jobs, full-time or part-time jobs, might be juggling that alongside a family, looking after a house, and just other sort of life responsibilities. And it's getting that balance between work, life, studying, and how are you going to fit all of that in. Motivation is another one, sort of, you know, getting motivated to do some studying, to work through your qualification. You know, I know it's sort of, if you've been sort of working all day, it can be quite hard to sort of, you know, get going and sort of get that motivation to do some study in the evenings or at the weekends. And I think sort of the next view really is, if you are choosing to study online, these are some of the challenges that people sort of talk about in terms of making sure that we set time aside to study, you know, where that's going to fit in to our everyday life, feeling like you're a bit on your own if you are an online learner, and not being as structured if you're not sort of attending classes. And so all of those things we'll sort of talk about when we talk about the different sort of modes of study, and it's sort of taking all those things into consideration, being really honest with yourselves about, do you struggle with those things, and therefore what might be the best study mode for you. Where to start? So ACCA qualification, you know, sort of it's going to be a little bit of a long journey ahead. There's quite a few papers to get through, and it's sort of, where do I start? Which paper should I start with? Which level am I starting with? And so that's why we're going to sort of recap that ACCA qualification with you as well, and give you some ideas as to where to get started with it. Then obviously, I think sort of the past 2 years, we've all been at home, we've all been studying, we've all had those sort of distractions at home, making sure that we've got a really good, comfortable space to study as well. And if you're going to continue to study online, sort of going forward, then those can be some of the challenges that you face. So I'm going to pass you over to Rosie. I'm just going to switch the webcam over to Rosie now, and she's going to talk to you about her journey and work-life balance as well. So let me change it to Rosie, and hopefully.
Hello.
Okay.
Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. So hello, Hannah introduced me earlier on, so my name is Rosie. I am ACCA qualified. I've been where you guys have been. It's horrible, I know, but I promise you it's worth it in the end. So I just want to talk a little bit about sort of my journey, my work-life balance as I progress through my qualification. So first things first, university. So I went to university. I graduated with a first class honours degree in forensic accounting, and I'm very competitive, so I was really happy that I did really, really well on my degree on that as well. And another bonus to that was the fact that I was actually exempt from half of the exams when I finished university. So I was halfway through my ACCA without even realising it, with all the hard work that I put in at uni. So I thought, a bit of a bonus, that's good. I'll get finished really quickly. I'll only need another year or so, and I will be I'll be on my way to qualification. Little did I know what was to come, which was testing at times. And also I secured a grad role during that time as well. It was an industry role. I wasn't really sure if I wanted to be in industry, whether I wanted to be in practice, but it was a sort of thing where I thought, well, I've got one, I can focus on my final year now and just get as best as I can in my degree and head into work. So that was my sort of starting in accounting. It was one of the things, I just got it, loved it. I thought that's what I'm going to progress with. Then I started my job, and yeah, when you are studying and working, it is very, very difficult. When I was at university, you have your full-time studying. It's your everyday. You can get your work done and you can have a life. When you're at work, obviously, there are different priorities that happen and it becomes really, really difficult. And a new role is scary as well, isn't it? When you're going into the world of work, it's the first role you've done and you're terrified that you want to do well, you want to, look good to your managers, and you want to do well in your qualification as well. So it's all this priorities that we wanted to get through. Now, with my first job, it was a grad role, but it wasn't as supportive as what I thought a grad role might be with regards to my ACCA. They paid for my exam. They gave me 1 day off for my exam, and that was it. I had to study in my own time. I had to pay for my own study materials, which for a grad role, I think is pretty rubbish. But we got through it. I, sort of learned from a book. I learned what hard work really was at that point, because I had to, if I didn't understand something, I just had to get it and work my way through it. So it was really tough, but it was always more work. And during university, as I said, really competitive, wanted to do really well, get first, get the best grade I can. And I was still in that sort of mindset when I started work as well. I didn't want to just pass my exams. I wanted to get, prize winners and all that kind of stuff. Again, that very much changed very quickly as I was working through that. So I just thought it's going to take me sort of 18 months to qualify with the amount of exams I've got left. I'll sit one every quarter, pass it, of course. There was never failure in my plan, and obviously get qualified and into the world of work with a better salary and a better job by the end of it. But as well, at that point, it started to become clear that obviously career progression is really important as well, which when you're studying and wanting to do really well there, you've got friends, you've got family, it becomes quite a lot, doesn't it? And at that point, that is when you decide, you know what, I need a work-life balance. Now, when you start your first job, your responsibility is obviously a lot less because you get into it, you're starting to learn everything at the company, and quite quickly the pressure builds and you become quite responsible for a lot of things ultimately in your role. So that meant more time working, less time studying, less time seeing friends, because obviously you want to do well at work, you want to put yourself out there, make sure that your managers are happy with what you're doing. So it became apparent that, you know, I needed this work-life balance, and at the same time, life gets in the way. I mean, I went through dating, I went through being dumped, I went through moving house, moving back in with my parents. My best friend moved to London, far away. I was really sad about that. My grandma, bless her heart, was diagnosed with a terminal illness. So all these different things was happening in my life. I got this new job and I wanted to study. You know, it's a lot. Okay, it's not woe is me, it's just everything happens and everybody has their own difficulties, and it's one of them things that you have to sort of, you need to give yourself a kick up the backside and just think, right, I want to get this done, I'm going to get it done. So how did I get a work-life balance ultimately? So I created my study plan. All right, I was one of those people that sat there with my A3 piece of paper, I had my highlighters, all my stationery, and I put my plan together. All right. I was realistic about it. You've got to be realistic. You can't expect to work all day 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 at the time, long old day, and then study every single night, every weekend. It's not possible. It's not realistic. It's not sensible. You will burn yourself out. So I was sort of like, right, let's put this plan in place where I've got me time in that, where I've got time to see friends, family, sit and watch Netflix, whatever I want to do, that's not studying or working, which is really helpful. But as well, you've got to make sure the people that surround you have visibility of that plan as well, and that you can set deadlines, because ultimately if you've got this plan and then you've got everybody in your ear, you know, your phone's going off, or you come into the pub or whatever you want to do, people need to understand and support you that, you know, you've got this plan, these are the days that you're available, don't make me feel guilty for not coming out on that day, because, you know, that's my study time. So definitely that was key. And in terms of my study plan, what I put in place was, especially during a tuition phase where I'm just learning all the knowledge for the exam, I'd give myself sort of 2 weeks, 2 days and evening of every week off. So I would have 2 evenings where I would do whatever I want to do, go out for dinner, whatever that might be. And would only do sort of 9 till 12 on a Saturday. So I'd have my Saturday afternoon, my Saturday evening, and my Sunday to myself. Now, during then the revision phase, I sort of cut out that whole getting the weekend off. I sort of had to come to terms with the fact my weekend probably wasn't going to be my own for the next sort of 4 or 5 weeks during revision. So I would make sure that I give myself Sunday afternoon off. I always had to go for my Sunday roast, but it was, you know, I had to sort of take time out of my weekend to do so. And that was really successful for me, I found. But the key message there is it's not realistic to say you're going to study all the time, because then you just drop off your plan and then your plan becomes redundant and you don't follow it. You need it to be realistic, which is really important. So that's what I did. And yeah, so it's sort of life gets in the way. I've got this study plan. And when the things happened in life and my nan got poorly and all that, I took a year out. Okay, there was a time I was ready to book my next exam and I just thought, I can't do it, I can't focus, I can't do it. And you know what, as quickly as I wanted to get it done, and my plan was 18 months, that went out the window. But you know, mental health, physical health is really important in success in anything, but in success for your qualification. So I took a year out. Sort of it took a while for me to get back into it. I got sort of 9 months into my break and thought, I've got to do this. I can't can't carry on just putting it off, because it will never happen. And bless her, my grandma was still around at that time. She gave me a kick and said, Rosie, I want to see you qualify. So that was the sort of motivation for me. You're going to do it, Rosie, because your nan wants to see you do it. You know, I was seeing friends and people I knew on LinkedIn that were qualifying, and I was like, oh gosh, as a competitive person I am, how are these people qualifying before me? That's not on. I need to get into gear. So I decided, right, that's it. I'm going to do it. I was in a role at that time that wasn't very supportive role. I found a new job, found a really good employer to help me through my qualification. They were really supportive. And the first one I signed back up for was advanced tax at that stage. And wow, I sat that and never did it again because it was horrific. Some people are good at tax, just not my cup of tea. Obviously, that wasn't what I wanted the first exam back in, because that's never good, is it? Failing that first exam back in. So I decided, right, I've got a really supportive employer. I'm going to do some online sessions. It gives me a place to be at a certain time. It gives me, you know, a structure to my study. So I signed up to do some online classes, get that professional help from a tutor, these experts that you have that can really help you. So I started then with SBL, but at the time it was P1 and P3 back in the day. I did the 2 and I've passed first time, which was a really good boost for me, ready to go. Now, at that stage, I was sort of like, I am going to finish this in 6 months now. There's no way I'm going to get to the end of the year and not be qualified. So that was my goal. That was what I was on. I sat my advanced performance management next, passed that one, and then I did SBR and AAA together, which I would not advise. That was a lot of work, but that was my goal and I passed those. So the main thing there is I qualified a little bit behind schedule, but you know what, I qualified, so my nan saw it and I was happy with that, and there we go, I'm qualified. I can now go and pursue my career. So take away from this, my journey, lots of things going on, crazy busy, but making sure you've got that work-life balance and making sure you have supportive people around you to help you with that. Okay, hopefully that was helpful. I'll pass you back to Hannah now, where she will carry on with this webinar.
Thank you very much, Rosie. Hopefully that's been sort of really useful to hear that, and you know, show that actually this is achievable, that life does throw things our way, but it is definitely achievable. I did want to mention, actually, I was just thinking when Rosie was speaking, that we do have a Q&A box. So if any questions come up as we're going along, that you've got for Rosie or for myself, and we've got a team of people from FI here and also Gemma from the ACCA to help answer your questions. So any questions at all, please do pop them into the Q&A box and we will answer them as we go along. So words of advice then, so after Rosie's fantastic pieces of advice there, this would just be my advice from a tutor perspective, and also somebody that, you know, sometimes does tasks that I don't particularly enjoy, don't want to do, and these would be my bits of advice as to how to help you focus and sort of, you know, get your study done. So leaving your phone in a different room for your blocks of study would be my piece of advice. I mark exams, so the real exams that students sit, and you know, it can get a little bit boring, shall we say, a little bit monotonous, but I cannot focus if I have my phone nearby, and I think everybody is very guilty of being on their phones a lot these days, and social media and just your phone sort of going off, WhatsApp messages. So really sort of leave that distraction aside, but you can sort of use that a bit of your motivation, a bit of your reward. Once you've done your block of study, you can go and sort of, you know, be nosy on social media and that kind of stuff. So as Rosie was saying, me time is really important. Your physical and mental health is really important through studying. It is tough, but actually if you do schedule in breaks and doing things nice for yourself, it makes you more productive when you do come to study. You'll be a lot more fresh, you'll be more focused because you've had that break, you've had that bit of me time, you've taken that time out, and then you can focus on your study. So don't feel like, you know, you have got to study every evening and every weekend with no breaks. You know, as Rosie said, you will burn yourselves out. So, you know, this is achievable if you do build in those breaks and timeouts for yourself as well. Ask for help. So as a tutor, I get worried when nobody asks me any questions. You know, that's what we're here for, and hopefully you will have a tutor or a course of somebody that you can go to for support. So use the best channel of communication for you, and do ask for help. You know, tutors have seen it all, you know, they are there to support you, so use them to your advantage. What I usually say to students, if you are sort of studying and you're looking at something for 20 minutes and you're still not sure, you don't know what's going on, you don't know how to answer it, then stop. You know, don't carry on, don't spend hours sort of dwelling on something. That's the point at which you should be reaching out for help, hopefully from your tutor or you know, an online forum or something like that, who can help support you with that. I'm glad Rosie mentioned study plans, because I'm going to be talking more in depth about study plans, and these are really important, and we'll talk about that in more depth in just a second. Sharing your plan, making yourself accountable, letting others know when you are working so that they're not going to distract you as well. Setting some rules for your household. You know, so when I'm teaching in the evenings, you know, I shut the doors so that my little 5-year-old doesn't run in, even though I'm sure he's desperate to teach a bit of financial management for ACCA. But yes, we keep the doors shut, and we know that that is, you know, no, you can't come in at this particular time. Another thing another tutor mentioned to me once is just sort of making a bit of variety in your studying. So perhaps doing different studying different chapters or doing different tasks and actually moving about. And sometimes that change of scenery just makes you a little bit more alert, a little bit more focused. So that could be another thing to try if you are sort of struggling to sort of focus on a particular item of study. And I would say get your family and friends involved. You know, why should you be the only one going through this sort of tough experience? You know, wrote those in as well. So I used to have little revision pass cards, and I used to get my mum to sit and test me until she started testing me on the exam tips, which, you know, was not really the point of the exercise, but yeah, it can be fun, and maybe they'll learn a little bit about accounting as well. So something that I think Rosie mentioned there in terms of, you know, Rosie did different types of studies. So she studied online, and then, you know, there might have been a more tricky paper for Rosie where she then chose to do a different form of online study, which is what we call online live. And it's just being honest with yourselves really, and making the right choice for you. Everybody learns in different ways. Online is not right for everybody, but classroom also may not be suitable for you as well. So I just wanted to run through the different study modes that we offer at FI, but as I said, most learning providers out there offer as well, the differences between them so that you can make an informed choice. So obviously, I think we'll probably all be familiar with what classroom is, maybe not over the last couple of years, but we're getting there slowly, getting back to normality. But hopefully you've all sort of studied in a classroom at some point. So this is where you go into a physical classroom, into a physical centre. There are structured times to study, usually full days of study. So sort of we do 9:30 till 4:15. Sometimes it could be block study, so you could be in college every day for 4 days, or it could be sort of a day a week. But there will be structured times for you to attend a class. So that's really good if you do struggle with that motivation, you know, and you do have a sort of a centre or college nearby. That can be good to sort of get you out, get you away from the house, get you away from any distractions, and that is your time to focus and study. And some study centres also, you know, stay open, you know, after class, so that if you wanted to stay and do a little bit of study and just get it out the way at the end, then you have that possibility as well. I think the biggest thing about Classroom is that is different to online is that social aspect, that you meet other people that are going through what you're going through, that you can sort of maybe form a study buddy with, and maybe after class you sit together, you go through the questions, you help each other, as well as sort of networking with people as well. But I think that's probably the biggest difference for me between Classroom and online. We then have FI Online, so this is the polar opposite really to Classroom. This is a completely flexible approach. You study whenever you want, wherever you want, and you can start whenever you want as well. So if you think it might be, you know, a little bit too late, or you've missed a course, you know, you can get started with online wherever you want to. But this is a distance learning approach where you get sent your materials. You have an online learning platform, so we have over 10 hours of recordings for each paper. You watch the video, a tutor sort of going through the course notes, and you study alongside it and do the question practice and mock exams. But basically, if you do have a very hectic lifestyle that study just needs to fit in as and when, you know, you might grab 30 minutes on your lunch hour at work to maybe just watch a quick lecture, then online is great for you if you haven't got any centres close by and you have got quite a busy lifestyle for this to fit into. However, it's not great if you struggle with the motivation, that you struggle with the self-discipline, that you find it hard to sort of set time aside to study. You know, this may not be the study route for you. So as I said, it's like making that informed decision. So online live then is the hybrid between the two. So online live is where you attend a webinar very similar to what you're attending today. We use a platform called Adobe Connect, but there are scheduled session times, but maybe it's a little bit more flexible than Classroom, because obviously you can study wherever you've got an internet connection. But also it might not be full days or block teaching. So at FI we offer evenings, we offer weekends, we have mornings or afternoons, or it could be full days but just a couple of days a week rather than 4 days out of a week. So it gives you that structure of Classroom and helps with that motivation, but it's flexible because all of our sessions are recorded as well, so that you can you know, attend. You can attend, or if you can't catch it because life has got in the way, you can catch up on the recording. It's very interactive and probably again something that we've become a lot more used to. So if you do need that bit of motivation but you still want a little bit of flexibility, then online live might be the option for you. But it's really important to make the right choice here, because otherwise this is where you become demotivated because you're not progressing at the rate you want to. Maybe you've chosen online but you're struggling to get going with it, and that's where things can sort of drift a little bit, and so it's really important to get this study mode correct. So let's talk about study plans then. So study plans are great, but they can go a little bit wrong. So these are the common pitfalls of study plans. So not writing it down. So I'm terrible for this sometimes, you know, I get so busy and I think, oh, I've got to do this, this and this, and then, you know, I've forgotten what I was doing, and I haven't written it down. And, you know, if you don't write it down, you don't always commit to do it and you can forget about it. So like Rosie said, get your A3 piece of paper out and all your colourful stationery, and do a lovely sort of plan that you can pin up on your wall, and so, you know, look at it, give it to your friends and family and so on. Unrealistic, I think Rosie mentioned this as well. So again, I am in danger of this sometimes. I write my to-do list and think, yep, I'm definitely not going to get all of that done today, but then it has the opposite effect to what it should be having. And this is, you know, the study plan should be here to motivate you, and if you set an unrealistic target, then of course, you know, you're going to become demotivated because you didn't achieve what you wanted to achieve. obviously not having a plan, and this, what I mean by this is not having a detailed plan. Okay, so don't be too vague in your plan, be as specific as you can to make this a really good motivating study plan. No rewards, places to lead to rewards, as we've already said, you know, it makes you more productive when you have had that time out and those breaks, so make sure you schedule those into your plan as well. And also a lot of students think that just attending a session is enough on a course, but of course there is a lot of work around that as well. So even if you are attending classroom or you're attending online live sessions, then still have a plan for what you do outside of class, because, you know, I'm sure Rosie will tell you this as a tutor and as a student, question practice is so important, and you really need to schedule that into your study plan. So what makes a good plan? I've sort of just mentioned some of them. So be specific, you know, what's the activity, what resources are you going to need? Be as specific, break it down as much as you can. Be realistic, so no more than 2 to 3 hours, I would say, particularly if you're studying at the evening or a weekend, but actually break it down further. So I'd only sort of study for 45 minutes at a time before you go and take a break. Step outside, take some breaths of fresh air, that kind of stuff. So the only exception to that is obviously when you are doing a mock exam, where it's really worthwhile that you sit down and do that mock exam to time to practice what it's going to feel like in the real exam. And make yourself accountable for your plan as well. So share it with your friends and family, put it on the wall, make it visible, make yourself accountable. As soon as you tell somebody else, you know, they'll start putting the pressure on. If you're a bit competitive like Rosie and myself, then that will certainly help as well, because you won't want them sort of, you know, in your ear saying, oh, you didn't achieve that. You know, you'll want to get it done. So in terms of a plan, I've sort of looked at sort of the steps in building a plan. So here's a plan that's not a very good plan. Okay, so we've got studying every single night apart from Fridays and all weekend. So that's just not realistic. You know, we've got a lot of things going on. We want to schedule in those breaks. It's really important for our mental health. So this is a really vague, unrealistic plan, which is probably not going to motivate you and be very useful to you. So we're getting a little bit better here, but again, it's still a little bit vague. So study chapter 3, watch the whole recording, which is well over 2 hours there. So, you know, you're not going to sit there for 2 hours and watch something, because actually not a lot is going to go in, and you're probably then not going to feel like you've not achieved very much at the end of it. So we want to get even more detailed than that. So I hope you can all see this, and I'm sure we can sort of share the slides after the session as well. But this is how much detail you want to get in there, and you can see that, you know, I'm only sort of scheduling 45 minutes at a time. I've got breaks in there, you know, doing 50 star jumps, wake yourselves up a little bit, do a bit of exercise. And, you know, building that reward point, you know, so here we go. This is my study plan, clearly, because I've got Grey's Anatomy in there. I've got chocolate in there, face masks in there. It's pretty much my life on a page, this, guys. So, but, you know, what motivates you will be different. So think about what really is going to push you to achieve. You know, Rosie talked about her nan there, which is lovely. So that could be it for you. It could be a family member. It could be a treat of some sort. You know, it could be something to do with your job and a promotion that you're going for. Think about what it is that is really going to push you, and build in some reward points in there as well. But, you know, notice that I have not put in sort of a whole day on sort of Saturday and Sunday. Rosie mentioned that I've got a few nights off there. You know, don't put too much in there, okay, but really break it down. You know, which chapter are you going to do, which questions are you going to practice, be really specific, and then tick it off, you know, so you feel like you have achieved something. And I love ticking things off a to-do list. That really helps to keep you focused and keep you motivated. So just a reminder then on the ACCA qualification, I know some of you will probably be at different stages, or some of you may not have started yet. So in terms of the knowledge level, we have sort of 3 exams there. They're sort of 2-hour exams, objective tests, you can take them whenever you want to. If we move on to the skills level, the corporate law is very similar to the knowledge level in terms of the style of exam, and it's different to the rest of the skills level. So again, corporate law you can do at any point whenever you're ready to take that exam, whereas the other 5 papers, there is an exam sitting. So it's usually the first full working week of quarterly months, so March, June, September and December. You can take 1 exam, you can take 2 exams. The exams are scheduled on different days throughout that week, and they are all 3-hour exams, computer-based exams, with some objective test questions in there and some longer form questions as well. Now, back in the old days when I started teaching, which is a long time ago now, they used to have numbers, and the reason those numbers were sort of taken away to show to students that actually you don't have to do them in a particular order, okay? And that's what I'd definitely recommend as you're starting out with the skills level, is think about, you know, maybe you've done a previous qualification, if you've done AAT or you did a degree. Think about what you enjoy, or think about, you know, sort of what your experience is at work. So, you know, if you were doing AAT, for example, then you might have really enjoyed the management accounting side, or you might be working in industry and do things like budgets. And if that's the case, then go with performance management, because if it's something you enjoy or something you feel confident with, you'll get off to a good start, and that will give you that motivation to keep working through the qualification as well. So no specific order for the skills level, and then getting up to the strategic professional levels. Again, no objective test questions in the exams at this point. Strategic business leader is the only one that's different. That is a 4-hour exam, but the rest are 3 hours. There are 2 papers that you have to do, and then you get some options. So you can choose 2 out of 4. And this is a very common question in terms of people always ask, you know, well, which option should I choose? Firstly, think about your career, which area of accounting you would like to go into. Are you working in practice? Are you working in industry? Maybe make your decision based on that. So if you're in practice, you might choose the tax and the audits. And the other thing to think about is what you enjoyed or what you did well at the skills level, because again, enjoying something, being good at something is half the battle. So if you did financial management with me, but you hate maths and you really found it tough, then you definitely don't want to be choosing advanced financial management. As much as I love it, it is a tough one if financial management is not your thing. So if you're not quite sure which area of accountancy you want to go into, then at this point, choose what you enjoy or what you felt really confident with at the skills level. So in terms of where to start with ACCA, if maybe you're just trying to get going again, obviously claim any exemptions that you might be entitled to. If you've done a degree, always check what exemptions you might get. If you've done AAT, you would be exempt from the knowledge level. So claim any exemptions. I would maybe start with corporate law. That's a good transition point into the skills level from something like AAT or the knowledge level, because it's very similar in the style of the exam. And then, as I said, skills papers can be done in any order. But before you decide which paper to go for, first think about whether you want to do 1 paper at a time, maybe to every sitting, or if you're going to do 2 papers. So some students do 2 papers to maybe just June and December, okay, and they skip March and September. So think about how much time you've got to dedicate, because doing 2 papers at a time, you know, can be a challenge. It's not impossible, but you know, have a real honest think with yourself as to what is manageable for you, and decide which sitting you want to aim for, because then you can work backwards from that exam date to think about when you need to start studying, when you need to join a course, and again, sort of, you know, start to build that motivation. So as I said, think about your previous studies, what you have enjoyed. You can do them in any order, but as I said, corporate law could be a good transition for you depending on sort of what you have done previous to ACCA. So I'm going to pass back over to Rosie now, who's going to talk a little bit more about the exams, exam pressure, and some tips to overcome that if that is something that is worrying you and preventing you from getting started. So let me just bring up Rosie's webcam again, and then I'll leave you in Rosie's capable hands.
Hello. So, oh, I think Hannah, can you go on mute for me?
Yes, of course.
I can hear my voice. Lovely, thank you. So yeah, so the qualification, so I just wanted to add a bit on from what Hannah said there, from what my experience as well. So I was exempt from 7 of the exams, and for example, I teach ACCA FR financial reporting, so I'm going to use this as an example. I was exempt from FA financial accounting at that bottom level, and I did it in my first year at university. So I was at university for 4 years. So it was a long old time ago before I actually sat FR. And you need to be really careful when you go in to sit to think, well, I'm exempt from that one, I'm going to go in for this one, because there's a lot of built up knowledge from that bottom level that you need for a lot of the exams. So make sure that you are sort of recapping those bottom levels if you are going in with some exemptions, because there is, as I say, a lot of built foundation knowledge that you need for those as well. So in terms of exam pressure tips to help us get through these horrible times, well, first of all, exam stress is just normal. If you're not stressed about an exam, then well, you must be some sort of superhero, because as much as you feel confident for an exam, I don't know about you, but I am always stressed about it. Not even just on the exam day, but the lead up to the exam, I find incredibly stressful. So it's very normal, and you will get through it. As I mentioned before, mental health, all really important for this. So just take a step back, take a deep breath, and just sort of think, right, how am I going to navigate through this tough time? And you will get through it. So in terms of my top tips, so as a fellow student that I used to be, share your problems with people is a key one of mine. So I'm really lucky that my best friends were all doing accountancy qualifications. So it was really nice for me to be able to share the pressures with those as well. We could all support each other. It was really nice. But even if you've got friends and family that aren't anything to do with accounting, share your problems with them. As they say, a problem shared is a problem halved, as we know, and that is really helpful to make sure that you've got support and people know that the pressures that you're going through as well. As Hannah mentioned as well in your study plan, reward yourself for studying. I think we think it becomes just part of the whole thing, which it is, but you've got to remember, studying is hard. It's hard when you're working, it's just hard in general to study, and you've got to reward yourself for it. Become more motivated when you do that. So take your afternoon off and have your face mask like Hannah does. Go out and buy your new lipstick if you want to, whatever you want to do. Book a holiday if you do that on a whim, but just reward yourself. It's really important that you do that to keep yourself motivated and to keep going. Study plan, of course, we've talked loads about study plans, but make sure that study plan is not just the study side but also the revision side, right up until that exam day as well. Make sure that you are going to sort of ramp up your revision towards the exam. You might not get all your nights off in the lead up, the couple of weeks before the exam, but you know that it's just for the next 2 weeks, and after that you can have a little rest for a bit before we get going again. And my final thing is something that one of my old teachers from school told me when I was doing my GCSEs, that the night before an exam, what I do is I do not do any work past 8 o'clock that evening. I completely stop and think, well, anything I'm reading now is not going to sink in. I close all my books, put them away. I'm not going to, I might keep my pocket notes out, but that's about it. I go and have a nice bubble bath. I then get out, have a hot chocolate cup of tea, put a film on, watch a film, usually finishes about 10:30, and I go to sleep. And at university, my flatmates found it absolutely bonkers that at 9:30 I was laying in bed with a cup of tea, watching the TV, and they were all sat up with their calculators, wondering how to balance a balance sheet. And I'm like, well, I've done as much as I can. So that's one of my top tips, because you want to be relaxed before your exam. You're going into a really stressful day, and the last thing you want is to be looking at something the night before and going, oh Lord, I don't know that. And then you panic and then you think that's going to come up in the exam and then it throws you all off. It's not worth it. It's probably worth a mark. It doesn't matter. All right, we need to just pass these exams. So really important that you do have a nice relaxing evening, have an early night, get a good night's sleep, wake up, have your breakfast and be ready for your exam. So that's as a student. I'm going to put my tutor hat on now as a tutor as well, with some tips that I give all my students a lot of the time. So as Hannah said, question practice, really important. Being as prepared as possible, ultimately. You've been through all your course notes, you've watched all the lectures, there's only so many times you can listen to my voice on the recordings. You've had enough of that. You've hammered your question bank, you've gone over those questions again and again and again, you've done all your mock exams, you are prepared. You are as prepared as you are going to be for that exam, but it is important that you do that question practice, especially those exam style questions, those past papers, because that's what those questions are going to look like in the exam. And the good thing that if you study with a provider like FI, that all of our question banks are the format of the exam questions, so you don't need to worry, you know, I've practiced these questions and it looked completely different in the exam. We make sure that obviously everything's like that, so that's really helpful as well. When you get onto your sort of higher level ones, there's some technical articles that the ACCA provide, and it's really important that you read those because there are some marks to be gained in the exam in those essay style questions for real life, common current issues that are in these articles. So make sure you look at those, and not necessarily just for those high level papers, even for the lower level papers that you're going to be doing. These technical articles put a really good spin on things, some real life spin on what you're learning, and it can really help with translating that knowledge into something that you can apply. What else have I got? Speak up to your tutors. I love to see emails from students actually after sessions when they're asking questions, because it shows that they're actually engaged and they're interested and they're really trying, and they're the students that I love to help, because, you know, when I get the email after the exam results day and they tell me that they've passed, it's really, really nice to see. We always want to help you. We want to help you succeed. So make sure you do speak up with those topics that you struggle with. Do small amounts of work each day rather than building it up and then thinking I can't even do any of this. Hannah touched on that a little bit in the study plan. Don't go studying for 2 hours at a time. Have a break. You know, it's never going to work. It's not realistic. Mental and physical well-being, of course, very, very important. Make sure you go for the walk, take the dog for a walk. If you like the gym, go to the gym. Even if you have to go and sit for an hour and watch your Made in Chelsea catch up, because that's what you relax doing, make sure you do that to give yourself some time off. Take advantage of everything that's offered to you as well. So whether you study with a provider or not, there's loads of resources that are available to you. Use them. It's, you know, when I was studying by myself, there's loads of things online you can use, and obviously when you go with a provider, they provide so much stuff for you that's going to help you succeed in that. So make sure you take advantage, especially those mock exams. There's so many students that sometimes don't do these mock exams, and you just wonder, you know, why are you not taking advantage of everything that you've got, because that's going to help you and you're going to pass. So really, really do that. Obviously it's best to go with a provider to learn, of course. You've got experience there, but if you are studying alone, make sure you have ACCA approved study material as well. There's so many things online that, you know, it could be an old syllabus or something like that you know you might be using, and it becomes quite difficult when you sit your exam and think, oh, that was a little bit different. So make sure you do that as well. In the exam, make sure you answer everything. You don't get negatively marked for doing something wrong. If you are doing a multiple choice question, if you don't know the answer, just tick one of them. You might get it right, okay? Don't leave anything unanswered. And especially as well in those higher level papers where you've got your essay style, when you're planning your answer and you're writing bits and bobs down, even if you don't know how to progress with that answer, you might have gained a few marks by writing a few things down. So make sure you put something all the time, and you will get those marks. And finally, after the exam, go home, do not open your books, don't think about the questions, don't talk about it, just forget it, have a rest and move on to the next. There's nothing more you can do. No point in stressing about it. Just get on with the life until you know, a couple of weeks later when you start your next course. So that is they are my top tips for that. And then finally, what's the examiner looking for? I'm sure we all wonder that. A lot of the clues are in the examiner's report. So after each exam, the examiner will issue a report with sort of like a summary of what was good on the exam, what was pretty poor on the exam, that kind of stuff. And you can use that. So if you know you're going to sit FR in the next sitting, pull up the examiner's report from the last FR session and see what students were doing well and what they weren't doing well at, because you can really impress the examiner by, you know, doing the things that they said the other bunch were bad at. You can do it really well. So you can use that as well to help with that. Knowledge and application. So obviously in the courses, we learn the knowledge, we learn our double entry bookkeeping, we know how to do our dead click, but then in an exam it's very different. No examiner is not going to ask you what the E in dead click stands for. You've got to be able to apply that knowledge, okay, and that's what the examiner is really looking for, which is why question practice is very key. And finally, time management. Exams are very time pressured. We know that. You think 3 hours is a long time, and it's just not. The examiner would never write an exam that's not doable in 3 hours, but the examiner is testing all these things, this knowledge and application, this time management, to know that when you answer these questions, you're being extremely precise. You're not blabbing on about everything you know about leasing. You're answering the actual requirement that is being asked. So time management obviously is really key for that. I've just seen a question come up. Where are the examiner's reports? Yes, they are on the ACCA website. You can get them from there. So yeah, that was what the examiner's looking for, really. We all want to impress the examiner, but not too much, because then the exams might get harder, but we always want to impress them. Okay, hopefully that's helpful, and I will pass you back to Hannah.
Thank you very much, Rosie. Yeah, just come back to that question, Louise. I think Gemma is typing a reply to you, but I think it's in the student section under student support, but I think Gemma might provide you with a link there, or let you know exactly where it is. Thank you for that question. So in terms of learning at FI, and again, most providers are like this, but it just gives you an idea of what your ACCA courses are going to look like. They're usually structured as a tuition phase, a revision phase, and then at FI we have a final mock as well. So tuition is really about sort of gaining all the knowledge about the syllabus. There will be some lecture examples, but most of the exam question practice is done outside of class at this point, and it will be supported by a mock exam at the end of that course. Whereas that's very different to a revision course where the key focus is on exam technique, helping you to apply your knowledge. Very little recap of topics. We're not going to reteach things. We are going to focus on question practice, because we know as tutors just how important that question practice is. And again, there will be another mock exam that goes at the end of that revision course. So you've had 2 full mock exams at this point, one at the end of tuition, one at the end of revision. And then we also offer a final mock course, which is basically another mock exam. It's not a course that you have to attend, it's just another opportunity to practice questions and get that all important feedback. So you complete the final mock, you submit it online, you would then get access to recordings of tutors going through those questions and talking about exam technique. And you would also get your feedback before your exam. So this is for papers really from the skills level onwards, sort of the knowledge level and corporate law. Because they're objective test questions, it's more of an integrated course where you do sort of tuition and question practice at the same time, because the questions are much shorter. But if you're thinking about, well, what does this actually look like in terms of me starting this qualification or getting going with this qualification, you know, what do I need to book onto? The key thing is that you do both the tuition course and a revision course. We at FI offer some different packages, which I'll provide a link to at the end as well, which actually includes all of these things, because we have that experience. We know that if you do all of these things as a student and you do your mock exams, then you are very well prepared to go into that exam. So in terms of that's coming to the end of the webinar now, I really hope you've found it useful, and thank you very much for listening. There will be some opportunity now if you do want to ask any questions, do drop them into the Q&A box. We're happy to stick around and sort of answer your questions. If you do want to know more about online studying, it will be me again, unfortunately. That might be a good thing or a bad thing, I'm not sure, but I'm running an ACCA FI online demo, which uses the same platform that we use, and I'll talk you again through ACCA qualification, how it all works at FI, what's available to you, and I'll go into tutor mode and do a little bit of basic teaching, so you can experience what it's like to attend an online live course. So there's a registration link there for you to attend, to register for that session. We also run an online try before you buy as well, so you get access to our online learning platform and you can sort of see what it's like, how you would actually study, if you want to try before sort of committing to purchasing a course. I've put there sort of ACCA unlimited packages, lots of benefits of that. It includes everything that you need. There's a cost saving in it as well if you are sort of self-funding yourself through your ACCA qualification. So check that out. There's lots of information on there, and you can sort of ask for more information as well. And then in terms of upcoming courses, obviously we're now looking at the September exam sitting. So our evening tuition courses start just towards the end of June. Our weekend and weekday courses start sort of very close to the results. So if you're waiting for results to come out, then it might be that you want to jump onto one of those later courses. But as you can see, there's lots of different choices there as to sort of when you study as well, if you're thinking about how this is going to fit in.